Australia. Okay, maybe some people go along with them. Maybe Britain and Australia and other countries would submit to this, but other countries wouldn't, and other countries would shelter them and give them money and give them assistance because they hated George Bush. Okay, so that's the metaphor. It's the exact same thing with Prince Philip and the Templars. It's the exact same thing. The Templars were the banking system. That's who when you say what was the banking system, it was the Templars. That's who they were. And you can shut that down in your home state, but you can't do it everywhere else. You can maybe get other people to go along with you because you have the church on your side. But no, it didn't. They got away, and they did away with Philip the Fair and his dynasty, in pretty short order. And they did away with the Pope. They got their revenge. And I think that in a lot of ways, by going underground, they became more powerful and more pervasive. And I think that you see it everywhere. Now, if you know what to look for, it's everywhere. It may sound like a huge leap, but to me, it's reality. And I don't necessarily mean to glorify them.
Sure.
You've got to have this sort of admiration. I don't know necessarily if they're on my side or I'm on their side, but there's no doubt in my mind that they're out there. I mean,
that's right.
And I think that so many of the systems that are in place now are the creation of their surrogates.
And I see that they're kind of re-emerging now onto the onto the what do you call it? Onto the surface, I guess we could call it. The Vatican is basically is
That's
saying
a very big deal, by the way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're sorry. Come on back. We didn't mean it. They're apologizing now or whatever, and they're coming back to to the surface and becoming more and more popular, and stories are going out there like the Da Vinci Code again that are to a certain extent glorifying them and saying that these are the real keepers of the either if it's a bloodline or if it's a secret history or whatever it might be, but they're definitely becoming more and more popular. So and what happens in my mind is a kind of a little red flag goes up and says, wait a minute, what's this all about? Why now? Why all of a sudden? What's going on? Why do they need to be popular at this time? And I'm not sure where this is going. We'll have to continue watching this and see, of course. Do you have any ideas or theories about that?
Well, I'm just studying. Again, I always look to history to figure out the future, and I'm not a prognosticator. I mean, I'm just a journalist. But I think what's happening is that, first of all, the sort of the black mark against them, the blood libel, as it were, will be removed. That I think either this pope or the next pope will absolve them. I think that you'll see some of these Templar groups start to coalesce, probably reform. But I don't know how many of these groups are authentic. My theory is this. First of all, the Templars, again, were Normans. At least the original Templars were Normans. When they got into trouble with the French king, they went up to Scotland, which was governed by a Norman king named Robert the Bruce. I think that the Temple and the Lodge is an excellent resource for this. I think the Talisman is also an excellent resource for this. I mean, I think it's very clear, and maybe Orthodox history doesn't acknowledge this yet, but they will, that they reformed in Scotland. They formed Freemasonry, and then they set out all over the world. And when I say Freemasonry, I don't really mean modern Freemasonry, to me, which is just sort of a remnant. These groups, one thing you notice about these groups is that they tend to reincarnate themselves and then dissolve and then reincarnate somewhere else. But, when you look at Freemasonry in the 16th and 17th century, it was pretty militant, and it was pretty aggressive, and it was incredibly powerful. People don't really understand how powerful it was and how so many revolutionary movements throughout the world, Mexico, Italy, the American colonies, were all driven by Freemasonry. And I don't know it still exists in that form at that level any longer. I'm not sure about that. I don't really have access to that information. I think that the Masonic groups that people join nowadays are more or less ceremonial. I don't really think that they're part of what was going on back then. I think they're two different. It's almost like the Rosicrucians. When people join the Rosicrucians now, it's not really the Germanic fraternity from the 15th century or the 16th century. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's almost like a ceremonial. Anybody can call themselves the Rosicrucians and start an organization. Anybody can call themselves the Templars and create a new organization. But what I'm going to argue in my book, and I think I'm going to argue incredibly persuasively, is that even the Templars were just an incarnation of this, and this goes back much, much farther.
Yeah.
Much, much farther. And that the Templars were just an incarnation that was convenient to them at that point in time. So,
yeah.
You see what I'm going with it?
Yeah.
So, I listen, I'm going to lay this out methodically, step by step, with tons and tons of references and tons of quotations and footnotes and stuff, because I think it's very much in evidence, and you just need to connect the dots.
Fascinating, yeah, definitely. I think at this point, I see it that there is some kind of reformation occurring within the church, a renewal, if you will. It has to do with the introduction of Mary, or the sacred feminine, and also potentially about this idea of the bloodlines, that there actually might be a potentially some kind of introduction of a new Messiah, or as a ruler of the world. Basically, we'll have to see how far this extends.
Well, that scares me.
Yeah, exactly. This
That's
scares me too.
To me. That whenever I hear rule of the world, I run in the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, there is hints of it there, I think, within what we're seeing now happening with the renewal of reintroduction of the Templars. But we'll have to see how far, what actually happens.
Very dangerous. It can be very dangerous. It can be extremely, perilous. Particularly if conditions get bad. I mean, we're facing a situation where the basic problem that we're facing today, in my opinion, is that the infrastructures that we built 50 or 100 years ago just can't keep up with technological and population growth. And I think that's the crisis point that we're leading towards, is that we built this infrastructure, this amazing infrastructure that really got us along for 100 years or so, but is becoming obsolete. I think not only just the physical infrastructure, but I think the financial infrastructure, and and other things as well. I think the political infrastructure just is going to have a very difficult time adapting to the progress of change.
Well, I mean, isn't it changing already? And if we are to study some of the conspiracy theories that are out there, there is, and even in many cases, the documented fact from the big boys, as it were, themselves, that there is going to be an introduction of a whole new currency. They have all the plans laid out, for instance, the Amero, the Euro, the someone jokingly called the Afro, if you want to say that. And we also, of course, have the world currency in place called the Phoenix currency, implying that we have a big destruction and then something rises out of the ashes, Yeah,
well, that's another thing that's worrisome to me. But again, I mean, I don't know how much power I have to control it. I can only adapt to it. There is there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of theorizing about it. And I think what you need to do is study all of it and make your own decisions, because everyone who comes to you with their theory, it has an agenda. They have their own agenda. They come to you with their own belief system. They come to you with their own ambitions.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that you really need to watch out for. We don't want a situation where we have political cults following gurus.
like it has been throughout history, you mean?
Exactly. I mean, that always ends in disaster.
Yeah.
I think what you really need to do is stay free, stay independent, and stay aware. I have a basic distrust of groups. I have a basic distrust of strong men and leaders.
Yeah.
Even though I grew up reading all this, Nietzschean Superman material. To me, I adapt that to my own life. I try to be as autonomous as you can be in this world today. But, resist until you can no longer do so. Because if you succumb to gurus, conspiracy gurus, and their political allies, that can, in my opinion, lead to some very dangerous places and has throughout history.
Yeah, I see it. I look upon it like this: that you should be open to information from anywhere, and it's a fine balance between believing someone else and acclimatizing the information or absorbing the information and then come to the idea, okay, is this my own conclusions or someone else's? What's going on here? But at the same time, you need to have that wide perspective, look at all the things, just as you say.
Even the stuff that's out there, you need to pay attention to at least.
Sure, of course.
So you understand it. Because information to me is a tool, it's a technology. And it's something that you can use in your life. And you can use towards your own ends. But I am very, very much leery. There's a lot of guys out there who are very compelling speakers, very compelling theorists, we know who they are. You've had some of them on your show. And I get good information from them, but that's as far as it goes for me.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Information.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and that's the point of this program, to invite guests that can talk about their ideas, so people can, make their own conclusions about, not only the theories, but also to some extent about the persons themselves. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's one main idea here. And again, it's to some extent about portraying an image also that, or showing a side of many of these things that are going on the political world scene that isn't addressed or talked about in like mainstream media, because there we get, one side of the coin, so to speak, and we need some balance here. That's how I view upon it,
Yeah, the mainstream media is becoming more and more limited every day. And it's more difficult for me to pay attention to. Basically what I do is I scan the headlines. Sort of if there's a story that will interest me that I want to read further on, I'll take it from there. Yeah. But there's so much going on. There's so much going on in a symbolic level that we need to pay attention to. We need to, people use symbols as language. We need to understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
We need to know what's going on the political level, and we need to know. Here's something that that I think everyone should be aware of, is we need to know, whether or not some of the information, the alternative information that we're being given, is actually genuine information or, not genuine. You see where I'm going with it?
Sure, sure.
And I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone, but, because I don't know for sure, but there are some people I just kind of wonder, particularly when they'll be given sort of access to secret information that they use as part of their propaganda. I wonder, how did they get that?
Sure, yeah.
But information to me, is a wonderful tool. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of your show. I listen every week, and I really enjoy the way that you deal with your guests, that you're not hitting them with your agenda, that you want to know the information. That, you act as our representative, the listener's representative, and that to me is very important. There are a lot of hosts who will speak over their guests and let their guests speak a few seconds and then hit them with their own agenda, and that's very suspicious.
Well, that's right, exactly, and thank you for mentioning that. I'm glad to hear that, and glad that kind of that idea comes through. So thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's see here. We're approaching the end of our second segment here, and there's so many things that we didn't have time to get to. So many more questions and points. So what I'm going to say is that I would love to have you back on the program.
I'd enjoy that very much.
Yeah, to talk more about this. And again, do you have a timeline or